Hello, I am Peter Thorne, and welcome to the second in a 5-part live panel discussion series on anti-violence, which is brought to you with the compliments of the Ministry of Youth, Sports and Community Empowerment and CBC, right here on CBC TV 8 and on YouTube at the Division of Youth Affairs and on Facebook. This hour-long program will discuss a series of 5 short films which were first premiered at the Olympus Theatres on November 8, 2022, as part of the Ministry of Youth, Sports and Community Empowerment's Anti-Violence Initiative. The format consists of the showing of one short film each week, which will then be discussed by our esteemed panel before we invite you to call us and share your valued thoughts and perspectives about how to get rid of the menace of violence from our landscape. Last week, we weren't able to facilitate calls, for which we tender an unqualified apology. But we'll be trying again this week to hear your views on this issue of violence plaguing our society. Last week, we focused on domestic violence as we viewed the first short film titled The Scream. This week, we'll be focusing on gender and symbolic, same difference, another short film. But before we do so, let me introduce our panel. I have on my right Sharon Rose-Gittens. She's president of the Barbados Association of Professional Social Workers. Thanks for coming back.
Yep, it's definitely look forward to being back again and talking through this particular episode with the fellow panelists.
And first timer for this series, Mr. Rondell, youth advocate.
Good afternoon, Peter, and thanks for having me.
A pleasure to be here. And we also have back again Shaquani Hunte, executive member of the Barbados Youth Development Council.
Thank you very much for having me again, Peter. It's a pleasure to be here.
No problem, and we'll be back after the break.
The Ministry of Youth, Sports and Community Empowerment's mentorship program, Project Protege, is once again opening the call for suitable mentors and mentees. The program aims to provide youth with positive role models and support, create a safe space where youth can find encouragement and guidance, connect youth with individuals who can help when they are facing everyday challenges. Do you know a young person between 12 and 17 who could benefit from targeted guidance? Are you a responsible, caring and committed individual over the age of 21? Then Project Protege may be the right fit for you. Consider joining us and become a partner in the positive development of youth here in Barbados. If you or someone you know is interested in joining Project Protege as a mentor or mentee, please contact the ministry at 535-3835 or send an email to ydp@barbados.gov.bb. That's 535-3835 or email ydp@barbados.gov.bb.
Welcome back to the Anti-Violence program. Last week I asked Sharon and Shaquani to share their perspectives and their views as to why they got involved in the Anti-Violence Initiative. I'll ask Rondell this week as to how he got involved. Rondell, you have a wide and a varied bio. You have been a national peace almost ambassador. You have been involved in youth work. You've been involved in, you have done a degree at the University of the West Indies. I guess you can bring the economics of violence to this perspective. And you also are advocate for several groups throughout the island. Share your thoughts.
Yes, please. So I guess throughout my life, I've been involved in several organizations, such as the Barbados National Youth Parliament, the Barbados Childhood Obesity Prevention Coalition, who deals with curbing obesity amongst children in Barbados. I've served on the Barbados Boy Scouts Association, where I'm still an avid member, and I currently work as a program manager within the National Peace Program, and I also do consultations with the Ministry of Youth as well. So in these environments, it's kind of introduced me to a lot of at-risk and vulnerable young people who haven't had the opportunity to gain quite a bit of the important developmental skills and opportunities that other people have gotten. Due to this and the fact of the matter that I've had the privilege to obtain a lot of these opportunities, I guess through the school that I went to, through my parents, and just a lot of the spaces that I've been in, I try my best to allow my peers to get these opportunities as well. And it kind of shows in the organizations that I work with and my professional career as well.
Anything that triggered you to get involved with the Andy Vallett's initiative?
Living in the communities that I have lived in, I understand how violence impacts individuals, how it impacts families, and it impacts communities as well. So I always just try my best to do things to assist. Similar to my bio, my motto to any situation is how I can help, and that manifests in my life.
Okay, well, you seem to be a jack of all trades, and I hope that you're a master of many.
I hope so as well.
Well, we'll now be viewing the featured short film on gender and symbolic, same difference. So sit back, enjoy, and relax.
In 500 words, write an essay to present to class about the importance of human rights. Describe why it is important for today's youth as 21st century citizens to understand the importance of human rights in their society. This essay seems real easy though, but how can I write this? How can I approach this? And I'm going to see what online says about human rights. Human rights. Human rights are moral principles or norms for certain standards of human behavior and are regularly protected in municipal and international law. Among our basic human rights are the right to equality, freedom from torture and degrading treatment, the right to be recognized as a person before the law, and right to life, liberty, and personal security. This is good. So much information about human rights. Man, this is gonna be one boss of an essay. This give me an easy A for me. Hello? Yes, boo, what's up? Just got home here working on this essay for class. Yes. The essay about human rights. I was just looking to see any definitions online before I start my masterpiece. Anyway, what's up with you, boo? Yes. I saw Miss Butch in class today. Can't say she wants to be a man or a woman, always tender she breasts and wearing boxers. Girl, I have no time for those types of humans. She thinks she is so much smarter than everybody else out working by herself. She has a point to prove. Look, she's really a hot mess. She comes from a very troubled home, or so I heard. No wonder. Look, you know what she need? She need some weave, a wardrobe, and a drop-dead, gorgeous, real man. Not mine though. That will surely set her straight. Look. I don't know where the misfits come from though. I'm so over them. Got that right. What about you, boo? And my glam squad crew. Yes. And the girl who sits behind you, her head always tied down. Is that really just tied on my head, so? And she planned these real all times. Honestly, is absolutely creepy. But I really feel for the poor soul. Yeah, girl. This turned out to be some year already. A lot of weirdos to go in contact with. And you check that really big, very dark guy. Sits in the back of the class. Right, sir, he's some kind of sick, slimy pervert. Head always down the phone. Kind of a little conversation with me. I don't know where he coming from though. But she came from that school that he transferred from. But like, honey, anybody these days. And he smell real. How you mean I make them feel bad? What did I do? Wait, it's my fault that they don't fit in? Look, let me behave myself here. Anyway, what's up with you? You can't even make a party already? Wait, where are we going? Yes! That sounds like a great plan, girl. We got so much stuff to go and discuss. Yes! Look, I have my friend this essay, so I'll talk to you later, all right? All right, see you later. All right, boo. Bye-bye. Let me send this to my phone so I can practice this masterpiece. And send. Got it. Human rights. Human rights are moral principles or norms for certain standards of human behavior and are regularly protected in municipal and international law. Among our basic human rights are the right to equality, freedom from torture and degrading treatment, the right to be recognized as a person before the law, and right to life, liberty, and personal security. Among our basic human rights are the right to equality, freedom from torture and degrading treatment, the right to be recognized as a person before the law, and right to life, liberty, and personal security? Is this what human rights are all about?
This is not how you behave in a civilized society. Zero tolerance on gun violence.
No more violence now.
Zero tolerance approach to gun violence in this country.
Go to school to learn, don't go to fight. As you grow in life, you got to do things right. Help your friends to do good deeds. Start right now to sow good seeds. You don't need a gun, you don't need a knife. You don't need a weapon that will end your life. Stay in school, get your education. Be a proud ambassador for your nation. No more violence now.
This is not how you behave in a civilized society.
Zero
Zero tolerance approach to gun violence in this country.
No more violence now.
Zero tolerance on gun violence.
Cease the violence now.
Zero tolerance on
We hope you enjoyed that short film on gender and symbolic same difference, and we'll be back after the break to discuss just what obtained with our panel.
Verbal and physical aspects, any violence, sexual abuse and neglect, any violence, emotional and mental effects, any violence. Violence not good for this country. It's depressing and hurting you and me. Violence not good for this country. Time for change and rearrange socially. No, we don't need it. We don't need it. We don't need it. Yes, we gonna end it. We don't need it. We don't need it. We don't need it. Yes, we gonna end it. Any violence, verbal and physical aspects. Any violence, sexual abuse and neglect. Any violence, emotional and mental effects. Any violence.
Welcome back to the End the Violence live panel discussion series. And we'll now get the thoughts and perspectives of our esteemed panel on what transpired. Sharon? Rose-Gittens?
As the video was playing, it reminded me very much why I'm a social worker. Simply because the idea of treating persons how you would like to be treated, and the space in which that video took place in a home with a young lady reaching at the end to recognize that what she was saying was hurtful. It was totally in contrast to what she was studying, and reaching the point where she knew this was wrong. It was also hurtful to hear the verbal language, the words that would have been used to describe persons who are different. As social workers, we believe and within our code of ethics, and it's the same in all health and helping professionals, where we respect the dignity and worth of individuals. There's a level of integrity, there's a level of social justice, and we definitely have a non-judgmental attitude. So as I watched the video, it pointed me to the point of where what we say is also as hurtful as what we may physically do to another individual. So the words do harm, even in your own space.
Okay, did you get a view or perspective that discrimination was taking place?
Yes, discrimination, stigma and discrimination. She's sharing a class with a number of persons, but here you have another classmate who's calling up and describing other persons, and together they're having this conversation. So definitely you are discriminating against those who are different. You heard, I hope, as relates to the person who's Muslim, the person who may be described as banning their chest. So you're thinking now, or have this image of a person who may be trans, or persons who may be lesbian or gay. You also have a person who is, because of the color of their skin, is being one that is being pointed out and taught and described as weirdos and stuff like that. So, of course, discrimination.
And it begs the question, I want to get your thoughts on Mr. Trim, but isn't gender equality first and foremost a human right applying equally to all classes and races?
Well, in the perfect world, it would be, but I guess when we look at society, that's not necessarily how it is. Even in Barbados, like when you listen to a radio station such as like Brass Tacks, or you go on like online on Nation News or Barbados Today, and you look at the comments on the certain videos regarding to like gender and sexuality, you would see the atrocious comments that persons leave under it. So what the video would have shown is the cognitive dissonance that persons often have when they reach topics that they don't properly understand. And so the common topics would be things like gender, sexuality, religion, colorism, racism. And you often realize that when they don't understand it is when their true feelings show. So although they might think that they have a positive view of the world, or they might cling to things like religion, which states that they're supposed to be like all loving and they're supposed to love their neighbors as themselves. When they do encounter these topics, it's something completely different. So that's when they engage in discrimination and stigma towards these individuals who may have totally different beliefs to them altogether, but they still expect these persons to subscribe to the same ideologies and the mentality that they have. So while you yourself might identify as Christian and you might cling to your Christian beliefs, someone might not be Christian, so they don't have the same beliefs as you. The girl that was in the video that was Muslim, what her religion entailed her tying down her head. But because the girl wasn't a Muslim herself, she wouldn't have understood that. So instead of going and say, well, let me research it and become more knowledgeable of the situation, what she did instead was cry down the belief that the girl that was a Muslim had. And this is something that we see all throughout society. It's just constant insults, discrimination, and stigma towards things that we don't understand. And gender is one of those topics.
I want to throw out something. Shaquani, I want to get your thoughts, but I would posit, or some people will posit, a suggestion that gender equality, apart from being a fundamental human right, is the key to achieving a peaceful society with full human potential and sustainable development. Your thoughts?
I want to say yes, it would be key. But as the other panelists said, sometimes we have great plans, but that can't be executed because even though it is a great plan, everybody can't see the vision because they don't understand, or maybe they don't want to understand, because sometimes persons are just set in their ways. They don't want to relearn, they don't want to retrain, they don't want to give another person an opportunity to explain their religion, their beliefs, their way of living. They have their opinion, they think they're right, so they're going to stick to it. That is how they were brought up, that this person should be like this. The norm is not to tie down your head. So because of their beliefs or the way they were brought up, they don't think that they can change. And because of that, even though the plan would be great if equality can go through the future, it'll be difficult to get everybody on board because not everybody can see the greater purpose of it being the best pathway forward.
And I would like to say that although it's important to achieve gender equality, like when we look at the world comprehensively, the door has many locks, and gender equality is just one lock on opening the door. There's a lot of different issues that currently exist within society that we're still trying to tackle. Racism on a whole, something that we've gotten quite far in, I guess, from the era of colonization. Like, we're still fighting towards racial equality. And I envision that in several years from now, we'll still be having the same fight. Because when you look at society and you look at individuals, you might be able to get 100 people to understand like what they're doing is wrong, and that discriminating or engaging in stigma against a certain demographic based upon their characteristics is wrong. There are 100 other children that are being indoctrinated by their parents that have these same beliefs. So every time you take one step forward, 2 steps backwards are being taken as well. And sometimes big institutions that are supposed to be in the fight, such as the churches, the schools, government, they often aren't in the fight. And they also is left to citizens and nonprofit organizations who don't often have the resources or the capacity to engage in it properly to do it. So it's a very difficult road.
Sure.
And as you shared the difficulty, I think the video also lends itself to what we can do, and in terms of education, because you saw the young lady there, she is now being exposed to a topic for the first time, and she is willing to research it. She did the Google. Yeah, she did the Google. And in doing that, then she was open up to so many other aspects of gender, so many aspects of discrimination. So I agree with you, Trim. The important point is also making that step. And yes, you may have 100 persons going in the direction, but you also need to still recognize those who are not with us. But yet, the 100 can make another 100, and we keep building, you know, we keep building. But definitely, I think that the video highlighted the importance of education and also self-awareness, because she was the one who decided to go look, go check, go understand what this is all about.
Okay, just hold your thoughts. We'll be back after the break.
days when I feel lost and directionless, placed under immense pressure to decide what my future will be and what my success will look like.
These emotions aren't unique to me. Many of us suffer with these feelings. It is, however, important that we reach out, talk to someone.
Make connections. Asking for help doesn't make you weak. It's one of the bravest and hardest things you'll ever have to do.
We are not alone.
We're stronger than we think.
This message is brought to you by the Youth Support Hotline, Ministry of Youth, Sports, and Community Empowerment. Call 539-HELP. That's 539-4357.
Welcome back to the Anti-Violence live panel discussion series. And we have Sharon Rose-Gittens. We also have Mr. Rondell and Shaquani Hunte here in the studio live. I want to put a question to you. Do you believe that gender stereotypes can have a severe impact on gender and mental health and could exacerbate things like depression and self-esteem, lowering self-esteem?
As you said, gender stereotypes, and I think as we shared as well, where is that gender construct coming from? And it starts within the home, it starts with family, it starts with our peers, and keeps building even into our adult relationships. So based on how an individual is interacting in that particular environment helps then to recreate and to frame and secure your idea of gender. Gender is usually, and we're talking gender, which is a social construct, more so than sex, which is I'm male, you're female. But what are those things in our society that is building that gender identity? So depending on what we hear, what we learn, and by whom at the particular stage, then that helps in framing who we are. And then right now there's so much discussion over the past few years as relates to gender coming through. So that is also important, what the media messages are about gender.
Are we getting a lot of pushback about gender equality in the Caribbean, or have we made more strides than any or other region, or when you do a comparative analysis?
Definitely not. Sharon was talking about education previously, and I think one of the things that was being sought to be introduced into the school was comprehensive sexual education. And that received massive backlash from individuals who did not understand what it was. And the need for persons to have this knowledge at their disposal when we look at things like sex on a holistic level, things like STDs, and everything that comes with being an individual and engaging in certain activities. So when we look at the Caribbean and like when we look at the West, a lot of persons think that we are adopting ideologies from the West here, and it's going to break down the entire social fabric altogether. But what they don't understand is that a lot of things that we currently engage in now was things that was brought to the West during colonization from the first place. So while they have decided that it's time to move on from this and to develop their society, we're still holding on to those things that were brought to us from several years back.
An example of that, actually, in the video, where you recognize here is this young lady, and as women, we look at our faces.
Definitely.
It's the focus of our face, how it's made up, how it's presented, and then we proceed to do a selfie of our face. We don't do a selfie of our knee or foot or whatever. It's the face that basically drives that discussion. But as Shaquani was going to add, go ahead.
What I will say is that I do agree that we need to have more education within the schools, but it is how we do it. I feel like sometimes we skip some steps. So we may jump to educating the students but forget to educate the parents, and that may be the most important step that we have to do first, because when a child comes home and share what they have learned at school with a parent, the parent would be confused if they're not aware of this program being introduced. So maybe we need to sensitize the home life first and then share with the students, because then when they come home to ask questions, well, additional questions, somebody can answer. Because you're sharing this information to children, but then when they get home, they have parents who are not exposed, who do not know, who will tell them, don't listen to that foolishness. They don't know what they're talking about. So then it's counterproductive. So we need to do two types of education. the students, the children, and the parents, because even though it seems like they're adults, they should know, a lot of people really don't know. We assume that people know and they can Google it and they can understand it by themselves, but when we really look at it, when we see the comments online, we're able to see that they don't understand what they're talking about, that the comments they're leaving on the post are so unrelated to the topic itself, that they're just jumping up from one bandwagon to the next. So in cases like that, maybe we need to educate the parents and the wider Barbados and then come back to the children, because then they have somebody to turn to ask additional questions. Because you made a statement, you asked a question about how it affects mental health. Through this year and last year, we saw all the issues with children, young adults, older people tackling mental health. And one of the things I keep saying, we need to get more counselors in the school, more social workers in the school, because people need persons to turn to. When you think about a school that has 1,000 students, 2 counselors may not be enough. When they're going to get to talk to everybody, how can they recognize that a child is having a problem at school? Who do they turn to? If a problem is raised at home, who do they speak to? So all those little problems, if we could increase, that means we need to get more people studying social work.
Oh yes, and
one of the I want to say something really important. One of the main reasons that I would have joined the sphere of like gender and sexuality is I remember when I was a small boy, I was probably around 4 or 5, walking through the community. My voice was high at that age. People used to tell me that I used to walk like a girl. But at that age, I had no idea what was going on. Like, I was still in my developmental years. Like, I was just in primary school, playing with toys, going outside and running about. And it was the adults that used to tell me the most vile things in regards to like how I used to talk. And these weren't my parents. These were strangers to me. So imagine living in a household with these persons who are telling you these things and thinking what you have to do in order to conform to what who you're supposed to be as a boy or a girl. And when we talk about the community and how the community is supposed to envelop you in love and help you to grow into an adult that's a productive citizen, how these harmful words and this harmful rhetoric really impacts you. Because even now I still struggle with a lot of like self-confidence issues and anxiety, because I've had several years of persons telling me horrible things. So when we look at this and then we look at mental health and the impact that it has on your mental health, luckily for me, I had a very loving household and I had friends that could support me, but everyone doesn't have that support system around them. So for example, the girl in the video that was tying her chest down, who knows what she was suffering with or the support system that she has. And then when we were back even further in like last year when we were struggling with suicides, persons, I guess, being admitted to the psychiatric hospital, you would understand the detrimental ramifications of what persons are saying to these individuals are, and they aren't aware of them. So when persons are online and when they're going to brass tacks and they insult the LGBTQ community or they insult things that they don't know, they hold no regard for what the trauma that they're placing on individuals. So mental health in Barbados, although we speak about it, is a joke.
You spoke, Shaquani, about parenting. I understand. Well, you would have known that Barbados would have been at the forefront of many educational programs for parents. I also have been reliably told that the Ministry of Youth, Sports and Community Empowerment is in the forefront, also in the vanguard from 2022 to 2023, and is looking to expand similar programs. Do you believe they are having the desired outcome, or people are becoming parents at too young an age?
Well, we have children raising children. I know a lot of people know that term, children raising children, and that is the reality. I encountered a young couple who just had a baby. They're both around 17. And I remember me and my mother, we witnessed them doing something. It wasn't wrong, but they didn't know. So when we witnessed it, we asked them if they know what was the amount of formula they're putting in the water for the tea. And they said, well, when you're putting 2 scoops to the 8-ounce bottle. I said, no. You have to read the instructions. They said, well, somebody told them to do the 2 scoops. I said, but that's when you were doing a 2-ounce bottle. So something as simple as that, it may not seem like a big issue, but in reality, it is a big issue because they didn't know. They didn't know who to ask. And because somebody told them in the beginning, they didn't really realize that that is something they could consistently educate themselves about. And I think we need to do more because we can see the ratio of how many young people are having children, and by that effect we can see how much children raising children. That means that you know how many people are going to the hospital, how many people are going to clinics. That means Barbados needs to target the clinics, it needs to target the parents coming home. I know my friend, she had a baby in Texas, and the first day that child came home, the nurse called. There was a parenting session every single week at 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. that she had to attend. It was mandatory. It was a group session. They educated her about the baby. They educated her about parenting. They educated her about how to get help for the child, where she can get help. So things like that, even though it doesn't seem like it helps a lot, but it was a mandatory meeting that she had to attend, or not somebody would come and assess if she is capable of raising a child. Because I find we have a lot of children who are struggling, who are being placed in positions where they need to be removed, and we're not taking action fast enough. And because of that, we have children going to school without meals, children at school all day. We're saying, oh, they're troublemakers. But really and truly, I told somebody, a child doesn't act out for no reason. They're acting out because of something. So we need to realize or recognize what is the problem and then try to fix it.
Luckily, the National Peace Program has partnered with numerous organizations to roll out some parenting initiatives in the upcoming months. One of them is Barbados, as Peter would have said, and one of them is the Barbados Association of Professional Social Workers, the Amar Empowerment Network, Men's Empowerment Network, and other organizations as well.
I remember I saw Bar and Justice advertising the classes, and I reached out to them and said, let me know when your classes are starting back, because I have a couple young people that I want sent to your classes, because I believe if you see something, you can say something, you can help somebody. And we need to get more people with that community vibe where you want to help raise children as a community again.
Yeah, so luckily alongside the Ministry of Youth, the National Peace Program will have a few parenting programs coming up shortly.
Your social program, your parenting program?
Yeah, our parenting program, as was shared by Rondell, is going to be part of that. So what we're doing and what we're proposing is that we also look at our young people and how they're going to school or not going to school, and what's the backstory, what's impacting on their behavior within the school system. So you can listen out, definitely watch out for those programs, and in partnership. So it's not just a one stop or one individual working on it in terms of Barbados, but it really would be a collective within our society working with our parents.
Okay, we are going to take a short break and we'll be back in just a moment.
The Youth Support Hotline is here to provide you with the assistance that you need. It is a safe space for those who feel as though they have nowhere to turn and need assistance that may not be readily available. Our trained staff are available to provide you with any support that you may need, any time of day or night. Our lines are open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. This support takes the form of qualified psychiatrists and other key mental health and wellness bodies here in Barbados. You don't have to suffer in silence. Any challenge that you may be facing, big or small, we are here to support you. If you or someone you know needs support and are unsure about where to turn, call 539-HELP. That's 539-4357.
This message is brought to you by the Youth Support Hotline, Ministry of Youth, Sports and Community Empowerment. Call 539-HELP. That's 539-4357.
Welcome back to the Anti-Violence live panel discussion series. At the beginning of the short film, we saw the young lady looking up the definition of human rights and etc. And she said we have a right to equality, to freedom from torture, right to life, liberty, personal security. You get the impression that in this region that we respect those rights, and that every individual is treated basically as an equal person before the law?
I definitely think we are trying. There's some major groups, major collections of people and communities that have been maintaining that. But clearly from the video, we also saw a conversation between two individuals who felt as if that's not how it's supposed to be. It was only after, when she came to the end of her research, then she said, you know, and she's thinking, is it me? Am I breaching what human rights are supposed to be all about? I also want to point out it spoke on human rights, but there are also fundamental rights, which speaks then of our laws, and which says an individual in breach of those particular laws can be fined by or force or court or whatever. But these human rights is how we treat each other. So there's no way in which I can take Trim to court for calling me a weirdo. There's, you know, it's just deviance, it's disrespectful, but how can I take him or anybody to court for saying those things? So as we continue to educate each other and do our own research, then it helps in terms of understanding how we should relate to one another. We're not doing it enough, as you shared. We're definitely not doing it enough, but I think we are, at this point, have a level of stability and respect for each other in certain areas, which allows our society to move on from one generation to another, but there's still more work to be done.
Do you get the impression, Mr. Trim or Shaquani, that in this issue of gender is like a us versus you kind of thing that emerges?
It definitely is. I mean, you listen to a lot of these big organizations that are against discussions of like gender and sexuality. They make it clear that they see themselves on the moral high ground, and everyone who's against them is not. And even going back to your last question, like in regards to human rights, the realities of persons are completely different. So there's some persons you can ask that question and they will be like, yes, the region is doing a fantastic job. But when you talk to more vulnerable communities, such as the LGBTQ community, especially persons who identify as transgender, they would think that their human rights aren't respected, that they are treated subhuman. So I would say that, as I would have said, the reality of some persons is completely different from other individuals. And to be quite honest, it is the responsibility of more the government to have a more all-encompassing view of everyone, because we understand that ideologies differ. So one person might have different beliefs to the other person, but government is supposed to be non-partisan and focus on the well-being of everyone. So, yeah.
Can I jump in there and say that, but government doesn't have its eye on its overarching, and government plays a role, but I still believe even us as civil society, as NGOs, as third sector organizations, we have a role to play. As a next door neighbor, we have a role to play. So yes, as you highlighted, government, but definitely there's so much that government is dealing with as well, that I want persons and our viewers to understand. You in your house have a responsibility for caring and respecting that person who may be different from you, who lives just next door to you.
Yeah, for sure. It's important for persons to be very aware of the things that they are saying, because I don't think that sometimes we understand the impact that we are having on those around us. So it's important for us to know what's going on and to act accordingly. It's important for the CSO to know what's going on and to act accordingly. And it's important for the government to know what's going on and to act accordingly, so that it's an all-encompassing effort in order to strive towards equality.
I'm going to throw something. Can we fully achieve gender equality or even women's rights if you don't bring along the men to make them allies in the fight for equality?
Who said we were leaving them behind? No, I'm honest. Because, I mean, I'm being serious, because when it's phrased that way, it seems like it's us against them. But it's really and truly, it's not us against them. It's all of us together, working together towards the same goal. Everybody wants equal opportunity, equal rights. So if we keep putting them against each other, they're going to battle. But if we build each other, if we build them together, then it's going to be more cohesive, and then you wouldn't have the issue of men against women, more opportunities for male, more opportunities for women. I keep telling people, if you want something, you have to go after it. And if you keep saying that, oh, they're not going to give me this opportunity because I am this person, or because I came from this place, or because I went to school at this place, you will never get the opportunity because you never even fought for it. You never put yourself in a position to get a chance. If you never went to the room, how can you know they're going to say no? I always tell people, like, when you're asking for funding, how do you know they're going to say no? You never even asked. So if you go into the fight, or you go into the room thinking that the answer is going to be no, it's impossible, is men against women, of course you're going to fail. We need to look at it as, is Barbadians against the world, or us against them, but we can't break it apart, or not we will have a greater battle in the long run, putting male against female, and then it's going to be a gender battle again.
I think one of the issues is that we expect girls. I feel like we expect girls and women to do all the heavy lifting, and it's for us men to understand that we have to help our female counterparts in getting the rights that they so willfully deserve. So for example, I would have founded an organization called the Developmental Project, which is supposed to kind of redefine masculinity, so that men understand that you're allowed to be a man and express your masculinity positively. And I would just like to say that when I told persons that the organization was seeking to redefine masculinity, they were appalled. Like, it was almost like a sort of anger towards the phrase. And this is because masculinity is such a strong social construct that when persons hear that you're trying to change it, that they get angry at it. But the reality of the matter is then the next year you're then going to complain that men are too angry, or that they don't understand consent, or they're bad in relationships, or they can't process emotions. But then when persons come and say that we want to change this and we want to help them, is aversion.
You remember when we spoke earlier about people don't understand change. They don't understand the term masculinity and what it really means. So in their mind, oh, you're taking away the man part. That's what they're thinking. They think that you're taking away something when you're really adding. You're adding to it. Yeah. You're making them more aware of themselves, making them be able to express themselves in a more positive way.
They think that is an agenda to emasculate men, when
it's not
the agenda really is just to make better men.
Exactly. Interesting.
Not saying that.
Okay, we are going to. That's what. We're going to take a short break, and we'll be back in just a moment. Welcome back to the End the Violence live panel discussion series. And again, we have been unable to get the calls, but we'll keep on trying. And I hope you bear with us. When you look at the film, again, the theme of discrimination came across. How can we, you think, stop people from being discriminatory against each other, more sensitive to the feelings of others?
Looking at the particular film, there are two areas there that I want to highlight. that can answer that question actually. When somebody calls to talk to you about another person and describe that person in language that you really and truly don't appreciate, well, you may appreciate it, but you realize that it's insulting, it is disrespectful, and it's hurtful to somebody else, don't continue the conversation. Here it is, you can say, well, thank you, I am no longer interested, this is not my type of language anymore. You need to talk to somebody else. So if somebody calls, if somebody shares something, you yourself being able to stop actually and say, take it somewhere else, or better yet, educate yourself about our human rights, and what you're saying verbally is also something that impacts on that individual. So I would emphasize the other person being able to say to that person, I'm not listening to this conversation anymore. That's definitely one way of doing it. It's not easy because we like gossip and we like to insult and we like to hear, but if you understand I am hurting another individual by my words, be strong enough and be brave enough to say, I may have talked about it before, but no, we're hurting somebody else.
You know, one of the questions that are going to come to the fore.
Yes.
Has social media helped at all, or has it exacerbated the problem?
Or brought it even closer? And it depends on who's looking, actually.
I can say it did both. Yes, it did help, but it made it worse in some sense because it gave persons the opportunity, one, to hide behind a mask, a fake name, a fake profile, and attack persons, but it also gave positive platforms and outlet to share information and get information to a side of the population where they wouldn't reach them on the radio or on, I guess, TV. They're going to persons at their convenience on their phones. But the question where you ask, what would I say to that person? When you think about your mirror image, check yourself in the mirror. Yeah. Think about when you take off your makeup, when you come home to yourselves, how do you feel after speaking about a person like that? How would you feel if a person spoke about you like that to your face online? When you put yourself in their shoes, then I think people become more aware of what they would say going forward, what they would have said previously, because we need to make persons more accountable for their words and their actions. And when we start doing that, when we start calling people out for their behavior, they will check themselves. They will realize, you know what, this is not the way to handle this situation. Let me just check and reanalyze and then go again.
I just want to say that when we look at like the HIV/AIDS campaign, that was a very successful campaign because we were inundated with information all across Barbados. It was on CBC, it was on all the social media, it was on billboards, it was in the newspapers, it was in pamphlets, everything. And when we look at these issues, we have to do something similar. Too often, like, we leave it within the hands of the CSOs and non-governmental organizations that just don't have the capacity or the money to engage in full-scale campaigns to educate the public. So it has to be a multi-dimensional approach from all actors within society in order to properly educate individuals on how we're supposed to achieve equality across all aspects.
And to add to that is also the individual who has been treated in that manner being able to speak out. The video showed her having the conversation on the phone, but you, as a victim, may hear somebody talking like that about you and being able to say something, see something, hear something, and do something about it as well. Tell it to somebody, you know, somebody you trust. There are social workers in schools, along with the guidance counselors, if it's a school organization, even guidance counselors at SJPI, BCC has counselors. If you are being mistreated, tell somebody, and somebody who you can trust, not just a peer, because that's just a conversation. You want this behavior to stop.
Okay, I want to posit one final thing. In terms of gender-based violence, we believe it should be evidence-based, where people can see the human within the policy framework.
Isn't it not there? In
some
terms of,
argue that it's not.
Because when I think of the Domestic Violence Act that And we have revised that act, so it does include that element of human rights within. So I think it's just, again, greater awareness of what we have in terms of, as a society, to end gender-based violence, given the language that's being spoken right now.
Okay, I think we had a very interesting discussion. I'm going to give you each 30 seconds to wrap up quickly. Shaquani?
What I want persons to remember is just remember, look at yourself, your mirror image. What you want people to say to you, remember, do unto others.
I just have to tell people to treat others how they want to be treated themselves.
Why were you looking into my brain, sir? I was going to say the same thing. Treat others as you would like to be treated, but first know how you want to be treated.
Okay, this week you heard from Shaquani Hunte from the Barbados Youth Development Council. She's an executive member. You also heard from Youth Advocate, Mr. Rondell Trim. And you heard from Sharon Rose-Gittens. She's the president of the Barbados Association of Professional Social Workers. And this week you watched the second in a 5-part live panel discussion series on anti-violence right here on CBC TV 8 in partnership with the Ministry of Youth, Sports and Community Empowerment. We reviewed the short film on gender and symbolic, same difference. Next week, you'll be viewing another short film as we continue our anti-violence panel discussion series right here on TV8 and on YouTube at the Division of Youth Affairs and on Facebook. Remember, this program is also repeated on Thursdays on CBC TV8 at 9:03 p.m. So I'd like to thank you and our esteemed panel for joining us. And you can join us again next week as we have another program of anti-violence. Have a great day.
The Youth Support Hotline is here to provide you with the assistance that you need. It is a safe space for those who feel as though they have nowhere to turn and need assistance that may not be readily available. Our trained staff are available to provide you with any support that you may need, any time of day or night. Our lines are open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. This support takes the form of qualified psychiatrists and other key mental health and wellness bodies here in Barbados. You don't have to suffer in silence. Any challenge that you may be facing, big or small, we are here to support you. If you or someone you know needs support and are unsure about where to turn, call 539-HELP. That's 539-4357.
This message is brought to you by the Youth Support Hotline, Ministry of Youth, Sports and Community Empowerment. Call 539-HELP. That's 539-4357.